sure, let's have a conversation. Let's have a good time. I want this to be interesting for as many of us as possible, and mostly useful. Because that's why we're here. That's what we attend seminars for. So first of all, I want to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Maris. I work for Scandiweb as a business development executive. So my daily role involves talking to a lot of merchants like yourself and diving into problems that merchants have and experience with their e-commerce solutions, both B2B and B2C. And me and my team are the ones who are helping to resolve these business problems and technical problems through solutionizing and oftentimes through the change of technology. So we have merchants, we have different types of merchants coming in through our door. Some people simply have some small technical issues that needs to be resolved, and those are easier cases. Other merchants come in with big, bold ideas. We work a lot with technology transformation. So as a business developer executive, I lead one of the business development teams, and our team is working on scoping the projects. Our team is working on discovery processes. We're working with our clients to establish what solution needs to be put in place. So what is a good match for the requirements, budgeting, of course, solution planning, implementation planning, technical documentation. We prepare all that so we can hand over all the projects so prepared for the delivery team. So the delivery team don't have to deal with a lot of the business questions and a lot of the solutionizing questions, so they can actually focus on what delivery team does best on delivering the project. So it's all scoped out and already tailored for what the business needs. And today I'm going to be focusing on a little bit more about my past, perhaps. So I'm holding quite a bit of an experience from the retail industry for over 20 years now. I've been in different areas of retail, anywhere from photographic printing to furniture retail to and wholesale as well, to bicycles, to many other things really in retail as general. So also 10 years I was a merchant online merchant. I was running my own e-commerce business, and I grew that from nothing to a point where we were shipping products with bicycles to more than 30 countries around Europe. I decided to change my career path at one point. So after 10 years in a private business, I decided I want to gain a more corporate experience. So after some research and some longer process and after experimenting with a couple of startups, I decided to join Scandiweb. So now for some time already, I'm here with Scandiweb as a business developer. So that's kind of roughly of about me. So today we're going to be talking about and focusing on business-to-business solutions. And what I did here is I collected some points that I feel are really important for businesses that work with other businesses. And these are not just my feelings or my thoughts. This is something that we have acquired as a team through experience, through working with B2B partners, looking at case studies, clients, customers, meetings, one-on-ones, discovery processes, etc. So I'm going to be trying to share everything that I think is important from the B2B side. But like I said, if you have any questions along the way, shoot them in a chat or in a Q&A section, and we'll try and attend those. So in general, in the digital age, your most effective sales representative may not be a person, but your e-commerce site. This is a statement by our user experience team that was included in one of the B2B researches they did. And I 100% stand with this statement, because it is not a secret. People, of course, people like buying from other people, but in the 21st century, it's just a no-brainer. People really are used to adding things to cart on their phones. They are used to adding things to cart on their computer, and things are more efficient this way for many reasons, because the processes are much more streamlined. The experience that the other sort of the consumer or the business as a consumer in this particular case are experiencing are beneficial. So they don't need to be dependent on your working hours. They don't need to be dependent on your sales staff availability. They don't need to be dependent on sort of the aspects that can change their will for the behavior. And their e-commerce, therefore, e-commerce steps in. And on the other hand, from a business to business retailer or wholesaler perspective, you also are very resource dependent, because if you need to keep hold a large sales team, large customer service team who's simply typing down orders over phone, etc., it involves costs, and it involves a lot of manpower. So therefore, e-commerce solution is has some economical aspects as well to why would we want to have it in the first place. I'm going to run through some basic facts that our UX team has collected from various sources. So none of this is coming from us. This is something that other people have done research. So if we look at it, then 86% of business-to-business customers prefer using self-service tools as opposed to contacting sales. So that research is coming from eCommerce, one of our technology partners, and that statement is quite bold, because this means that even though people are calling in, a lot of them actually would prefer not to if they could. So giving them tools to do that is really good. 90% of business-to-business customers would turn to a competitor if a supplier's digital channel couldn't keep up with their needs. So here we need to think about what experience we're delivering online and how user-friendly that experience is. 87% of business customers would pay more for a supplier with an excellent e-commerce portal. So price is not always a decider, and not even in a B2B environment. So the usability of things is highly valued from many aspects, and therefore the B2B commerce really matters. However, B2B journey has some specifics and a lot of specifics that need to be accounted for. And we can start with a couple of them. So first of all, why B2B commerce takes so long to implement. And well, first of all, why B2B commerce is taking so long to actually come to the popularity. Because we know very well that we've been doing e-commerce for the past 10, 15, some people even 20 years, or in the B2C sector. And nowadays, the B2C being made online, and but it's not converting into the B2B space. And why so? How come? And I truly believe that this delay is coming from the complexity of the processes that comes together with a business-to-business setup as such as a business. First of all, if we look at the e-commerce, then we see, if we look at the e-commerce B2C historically, we see that a lot of the smaller companies actually adopted the e-commerce sooner than larger companies. Set aside some big fishes that really dedicated the resources for it. I'm not talking about Amazon here. I'm not talking about Alibaba Group here. I'm talking about sort of average small to average medium business. So for medium business, it took actually longer because why so? How come? It's because bigger businesses have more complex processes. And the bigger the business, the more complex the processes, the more complex the processes for the offline business, the harder it is to bring it online, because you can't really decouple the business processes from e-commerce solutions as such. So if you have an offline business, brick and mortar physical stores that are integrated with some ERP system, with some other sort of with a point of sales, etc. So you can't really sort of go online ignoring the whole everything that's happening in the background. And when we start looking at the B2B businesses, the systems are even more complex. They're even more customized. They're not as out of the box. Rarely there are standard things that are used, because each business is unique, as each child is unique, and each business have grown up in a different way. So businesses end up using different customizations for their platform. So although you set up something like Microsoft Dynamics ERP, but it's set up uniquely for your business, because one business might get deliveries only on Mondays, and therefore they set up some dependencies on those deliveries, and it only happens once a week, and then suddenly you get on a delivery on another day, you need to reset the whole ERP, etc. So they're built customized from scratch, and therefore to build an e-commerce solution that matches that customization, you can't simply ignore everything that's going on in the real world. And when you start connecting that to the digital world, it simply takes it takes time, B, it takes resources, it takes money, and it takes time. And of course, then we also have to think about the decision-making process that's happening in a company. And the smaller the company, the shorter the decision-making process, the smaller the processes, the smaller the customizations, the easier technically it is to implement any new solutions. That's why we see startups being so agile. That's why we see the classic startup term by move fast, sort of break things fast, is there for a reason, because small companies can afford to do that, and large companies can't afford to go and break things quickly, because when large companies break things, then they lose money, and the bigger the company, the more money they lose, and therefore the steps are very careful, have to be very well thought through, and have to be extremely well planned for these implementations to happen. And it's not a bad thing that we have to plan these things. It's partially and mainly also a good thing, because when we have a good plan, then we typically have a better result as well. So that's roughly what my vision is for the B2B commerce. Another thing for the B2B commerce here is that B2B commerce struggles with acquiring users online, kind of changing the user behaviors. Most B2B stores, they already work with a lot of existing clients, long-term clients. So these clients and people are used to some processes. They're used to calling up their sales representatives or drinking coffee with them, and they sort of depend on that process in a way, and it's scary to try and push them to change things. And we see a lot of companies that are enforcing the e-commerce as a change from the previous process. There's a reluctance initially. There's a reluctance from the users or businesses who are buying to adapt these new processes, because nobody likes new things. People are genetically coded to dislike any changes. They like things when they're comfortable, when you're in a comfort zone, you're used to things how they are, and then when something changes, it's hard to adapt. We naturally resist the change at first, although sometimes that change is coming for a better good. The new Facebook design, nobody ever likes the new Facebook design. It's always a struggle. Nobody ever likes a new interface on your phone. because I used to know things and now I don't know what I need to press, and it's just natural. But there are tactics and ways how we can overcome these processes, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later in the presentation as well. Why e-commerce takes so long from some of the business processes? So first of all, there are a lot of dependencies in a B2B business in particular. We're looking at the supply chain. In the supply chain, we have quite some differences, and again, we're unique on each business there. There are B2B businesses who are manufacturing, so there's a heavy dependency on the manufacturing process, and that's sort of their supply chain. And then there's also distribution process. So technically, there could be one warehouse, several warehouses. There could be distribution around the globe, 3PL deliveries through a third party. Other B2B businesses work with yet third-party suppliers, and then having different suppliers and different rates of supply, amounts, stocks, etc. There's a lot of things that need to be dealt with at the supply chain, and each supply chain is very custom for each business. Secondly, we need to look at the pricing structure, and pricing structure on the B2B side also tends to be rather complex or unique. And we will be looking at sort of some pricing models a little bit later, but in general, there are businesses who have just set flat prices. There are businesses who have some tiers or tiered prices. There are businesses who have completely unique pricing for each client, and implementing such. So where the first and the second are more or less standard cases, but the latter is no longer a standard case, and then some specific implementations are needed just to simply synchronize that pricing with whatever software you keep that price. And I believe there are still a lot of businesses out there who keep their pricing on Excel sheets and pen and paper books and whatnot. So obviously there are a lot of processes that need to be put in place in order to get to that B2B. Delivery, again, so that's so the delivery and delivery services. So I did touch upon some warehousing delivery services. How is that managed? How is that calculated? We have, for instance, clients who are dealing with timber, for instance, and then when you're dealing with timber, and you're not talking about DHL or UPS, you're talking about freight delivery, and not even pallets, but you're dealing with kind of the whole lorries of delivery. So then we have wholesale clients who are working with pallets. So there's a couple who are working with pallets, yet delivery can happen only by container. So very customized solutions there. So you need to fill up your container on the B2B space, B2B e-commerce store. So there need to be custom calculators, customizations that need to be done, and yeah. So these are business processes that are resulting in customizing your e-commerce store, and that's one of the reasons why it takes so long. The dependency on the processes and the implementation of that process in the online space, because not all business processes can be matched by an out-of-the-box features or out-of-the-box functionality. You're lucky if you can, if the processes can be matched, and sometimes they can be matched, but I don't think we had any B2B store where there is zero customizations. In fact, I don't think we have any bigger stores that there's zero customizations in general, and definitely not B2B stores. So this dependency on business processes is quite heavy, and we have to always think through the business requirement when thinking about the B2B e-commerce store. So the same applies for the payment terms. There are companies who accept credit cards. There are companies who do not accept credit cards. There are companies who allow their clients pay by invoices, and that implies some dependencies right there. So do you allow anyone to pay by invoices, or do you verify the account? Is there a limit for the account? How much money can the company owe you before you stop allowing them to place any further orders, or before you stop, or do you allow them to place orders but you stop fulfilling them? So there are a lot of business cases that we need to think about and figure out, how to implement that. Of course, it's really easy and straightforward. You should simply say, okay, you pay by credit card here. Once it's paid, then you ship it. If that's the process, then it can come out of the box and really straightforward. But as soon as you start deviating away from those, then we need to look at it in detail. Yeah, and then of course there are some internal processes that also come into play, like as an example, once the order arrives, who's reading the order, who is going to the warehouse, how do you package that order, or how do you ship it? Does somebody physically carry that to the post office? Likely not. Do they give it to the courier? Is it a third-party 3PL integration? Then we need to integrate with that. So again, there's quite a lot of dependencies on the big thing. Yeah, so it also involves heavier research, more needs-based purchasing, and less marketing-driven buying. So this is again coming from our user experience team, and the intent here is to think about logical and methodological research about what do your clients want, what do they need, what is your unique case, and how to essentially deliver it online. Because again, business to business needs differ, and business to business stores tend to be more need driven than look and feel driven. So often we actually see that business B2B stores are not as beautiful. They're perhaps oftentimes not as glamorous, etc. But they made practical, and they made practical for good reasons. Because if you do need that freight calculator on your product list page, as you keep on adding items to the container, then you need that. Then you need it. It's if your clients or customers are used to seeing that, or are used to calculating, what that freight is going to be in general. So at least in ballpark, then it needs to be there. So it's going to be more need driven. And yeah, and here we see that B2B stacked against B2C, that in all steps of the purchase journey, in general, there is quite a different kind of a look at what we need to look at the B2B. So anywhere from the awareness through interest, through consideration, intent, all the way to the purchase and retention, we are not looking at so emotional and so marketing driven purchase drivers as in a B2B. So it's more tactical, it's more practical, it's more need driven, and we need to account for that. But what is really good with that is that all of these points are typically and usually driven by your business process. So your existing business processes, even if you don't have that e-commerce store just yet. And what I usually like to do myself when going through some discovery sessions with our clients, I really want to put myself in the customer's shoes, or this time around in a business customer shoes, and try to drive myself through this purchase journey in a process and understand, like, what do I need? What am I missing? You can look at the data, research, sort of talk to your sales team. It's super valuable. For instance, your sales team, the people who are on the phone with your clients, with your customers every day, they are some of the smartest people in your company. They know every question the clients are asking, and they can give you those answers. So for instance, with one of the clients that we were developing an e-commerce store for, it was B2B/B2C. So it's a company that manufactures equipment that is used both professionally and for hobbyists. Our user experience team did several interviews with the sales team, who works over phone with the clients every day, and they gained a ton of valuable information from them. They knew all the questions the clients are asking, because they are on the phone. They're saying like, "Oh, I'm on your website. I'm trying to look for this. I can't find that." There you go. That's your $100 answer. That's the answer to your $100 question, because they know what people are asking. If people are asking something, that means it's missing from the website. So moving forward on some of the business processes, most companies already have or are planning to implement some one or the other enterprise resource planning software. So this is one of the dependencies that's going to be coming along with the B2B website as well. And so there will be a fair amount of dependencies on ERP software that you're currently using. So no one expects you to change your ERP software just because you are or are not developing a website, and therefore we tend to implement a connection with your existing ERP, or if you don't have one, you quite likely might need one. So the ERP software is usually trying to helping to plan your enterprise resources, and e-commerce store typically connects with some particular connections that are the sort of information that is necessary from the ERP. There's your accounting, there's everything that needs to be there. We will touch upon some data exchange here in a second. Usually ERP systems have either one or the other connection type. It's either XML flat files via FTP server. That's a connection type, or it's a little bit more modern and it has some API integration, allows the API integration. And e-commerce usually can do either one or the other or both as well. So this is one thing that you need to look at. If you're only looking at an ERP system, I would strongly suggest looking at something that does an API integration. XML is a bit of a last year technology for today's standards, at least, but yet we still see a lot of businesses that are running on these older ERP systems, and they're not planning to change because it simply works for them at the moment. And therefore we need to look for solutions that can match the right type for those who perhaps don't use ERP or are not familiar with the term. So ERP system is usually usually serves information to e-commerce about products, about stock, receives back orders from e-commerce, and governs the pricing. So most actions happens in the as from the merchant side, or as from the merchant side happens on the ERP side. So that's where you manage your orders. That's where you do all your daily activities, mostly, for the most part. There are still some merchants who do that in back end of the e-commerce, but this way the e-commerce is just merely a sales channel and allows you to feed all the information back in your company as it is. So this is a typical product data set, but we see a lot of customized cases where there's a extra information or other additional particular information that needs to be exchanged between the ERP and the e-commerce. Sometimes it's some custom product attributes if PIM system is not used, or product information management system. Other times it can be also images. I've seen companies that hold a lot of data in ERP, but typically ERP is usually used for core product data. So core product data is really sort of merely a product name, or SKU number, of course, amount of stock that's left in your warehouse, or the orders coming back in, therefore reducing that stock, communicating back to the e-commerce side, and governs pricing. So if you change some prices in the back of your ERP, then that gets automatically synced with the website, so no one has to do that manually, etc. Then MSI model, or multi-source inventory, is another aspect that is often used in a B2B on B2B stores. So this module, so to say, governs the multi-source inventory. Why is this important? Because when sale happens from the B2B side, we need to understand where are we going to ship this product from. Is it in the UK? Is it in the United States? Or perhaps you have two warehouses in the United States, and then we need to ensure that we are effective with our logistics, and MSI or multi-source inventory modules usually allow us to set that up and give it assign some logic to how these orders are managed. What happens if particular product is out of stock in one warehouse, but yet is available in the other warehouse? Do we allow to ship it? Are we allowing to ship from the UK to US? Probably not. But yet, if you are in a US East Coast, but East Coast warehouse is out of the product, it has it in a West House, do we allow to ship it to the East Coast? Do we not? And you know, and these are the things that we can set up here. So for some, it could be several suppliers. For some, it could be multiple warehouses, distribution centers, or if you assign some products in a 3PL warehouse, which is sort of a third party that you can use as a fulfillment center. Yet you have perhaps a warehouse of your own, and then you can set these priorities again. What is being fulfilled by the third party? What is being fulfilled by your own warehouse, etc. So priorities and delivery scenarios, and that's kind of a whole massive module that comes into play with a B2B and helps for the B2B merchants there. So that as one of the next big things here, we can look at is a PIM and a product information management system. And with a PIM system, we understand sort of product information management. So having all of the products in your store, in your e-commerce store from the ERP is great, but we also need to think about delivering the right experience for the B2B user as well. So merely having a product name, SKU number, and the amount that's left in stock sometimes can be enough if I'm ordering for the 55th gazillion time that product. But if we want this, if we want to give kind of a full experience, or if we want the merchant to choose, we need to give them some information. So that's where the information enrichment comes into play. Of course, you can sync these products from ERP and go in the back end and manually populate that. But if we're talking about hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of products, or even hundreds of thousands products, then we need to have a more centralized way. How can we enrich these products, especially if we are selling in several languages, in several regions? So we might have several regions where one set of products is available in one region, not available in another. We might have different languages. We might have different descriptions on different sales channels. So for instance, you have one description on your e-commerce store, and you might have sort of sales center or something that where information comes in about the product, but you don't need as much in that sales center. So there's different data set that is needed for that. So product information management software usually allows you to work with multiple product data sources. So if you have product data arriving not only from one ERP, but if you have suppliers where you resell their products on the fly, so you can integrate with several ERPs or several systems. You can import things with this sort of import CSV files, etc. And in the product information management or in the PIM platform, data normalization happens. So different sources will serve different data in different ways. So it might have different tables. They ordered in a different manner, and we can teach PIM to recognize particular data feeds and normalize it, and then serve it to your e-commerce website in an organized manner. So your end users are getting the right look at it. Yeah, so anything that's to do with what also happens is data enrichment, so you can add sort of a lot of visual assets. What I've seen is very important for B2B is downloadable materials, so anything to do with user guides, anything to do with warranties, anything to do with sort of assets that you need to add to your product, you can add right inside of the PIM system, and that gets deployed to the e-commerce store right away. So there's no need to go and manage it from the back end of e-commerce, because when you have thousands or tens of thousands of products, it's so much easier. And what is also great in the PIM, you can assign certain roles to certain people. So there might be one person who is then managing, or a whole team who's managing data assets, like downloadable materials, and then might be completely another team who's dealing with translations, or even several teams. There might be a Spanish team and a French team who deals with Spanish and French translations. So these teams can get the right access with the right access into the back of the PIM system, where they can submit their information as needed, and then the store manager or PIM manager can approve that information and get and verify it to be deployed to the website when that sort of information set is finalized. So it's a tool that really makes the whole management of the e-commerce store so much easier. So, but yet it doesn't have as much to do with e-commerce. Well, it's not doing any e-commerce processes, but it's preparing all the information that is necessary on the back of the e-commerce. So here we can see a very quick example. So for the product that's not enriched, an enriched product on the right-hand side. So on the left-hand side, we see one of the case studies where data is coming from ERP. So it has given as a product name, it has given as a price, some description, but that's pretty much it. There are no attributes, there's no images. Of course, if I know what I'm buying, I can buy it, but even for the B2B clients to know it, if I'm looking at the thing for the first time, or if I need to choose between the two, then the result on the right-hand side is way better, because I have a longer description. I have some sections with attributes, so I can actually check what that product does, or what are the capabilities, and of course having some imagery around it. In the end, these are human beings who are buying from you. As for the PIM systems, a couple of popular tools that we use in quite a lot of our projects. We tend to go either with Pimcore or Akeneo, depending on what is needed from for the website itself. Of course, there's still a lot of other tools that are out there. I'm not saying that these are the best or the ones that are in a way ultimate, but these are our go-to tools. And some of the benefits, for instance, on Pimcore, some of our clients really like the fact that it's open source. It has a really rich free version that merchants can use. So you don't need to pay for the licenses. You can kind of spend your dollar on functionality, implementation, etc. It's super flexible, it's super scalable, and it's got a large community. It's fairly popular, so it's always easy to find developers who can work with that. And another really cool feature of it is that it's quite a unified platform for any digital data. So it's not only PIM, but you can build a lot of other things in the Pimcore as well. Yet at the same time, it's perhaps not as user-friendly from the backend viewpoint. The interface looks a little bit 2000s, early 2000s, but it does the job very well. On the other hand, we have a product called Akeneo. It works super well, for instance, with Adobe products and Magento. It's an Adobe go-to partner for PIM. It's PIM focused and PIM focused alone, not like Pimcore. You can build other things with it, but on Akeneo, it's just purely PIM. It's e-commerce ready structure, meaning that it's designed for and about e-commerce. So it's kind of tailored for e-commerce data exchange as such, and it's got really good usability. As from the backend interface, it's a little bit like Shopify. You can drag and drop nearly things and install some extensions, sort of applications on top of it to give it extra functionality. So it's a really neat tool. Yet, of course, but there are some licensing fees involved, etc. So that's something to account for. Moving forward, I wanted to touch a little bit more about also the pricing policy. So I already touched that before ever so slightly, but yeah, dependencies on a pricing policy on a B2B sites are quite heavy. So because there are usually quite unique scenarios that leave an impact for the customizations on implementation again. If there are flat prices are the easiest one that there can be. So if you have just one price for all products and whoever comes buys it at that price, it's very really straightforward. Most e-commerce platforms will allow you to do some level of tiered pricing. Depending on the from platform to platform, there are some limitations, of course, but tiered pricing basically means if you have clients in your gold circle, silver circle, platinum circle, then so everybody who's in a platinum circle has sort of the lowest price. The gold is maybe perhaps a little bit higher, and so on and so forward. Then it's quite straightforward. If you want people to be in several tiers, like you have, for instance, if you want to limit access to some products, again, you can use tiers as such to do that as well. And dynamic pricing is a strategy when you have, for instance, you get a better price as you buy more, or if you buy a certain amount a month, then you get an extra discount, or once you reach that amount or so the price can change dynamically per order on some depending on some rules. This could be easy and could be pretty much out of the box with some platforms, like Magento, for instance, allows a lot of something called cart rules, and you can simply set it up there. But if it's coming from your ERP, then it needs some custom implementation. And unique pricing, this is the toughest one to deliver usually, because we've seen we have some clients where custom pricing is coming for each client for each product. So it means there is a rep who has said like, hey, John, I'm going to give you 25% off for all of our list products, but for this category, I'm going to give you 27% off. For this particular product, I'm going to give you 32% off because I like you, and on that product, you can have it for $100. And here we already have created a lot of dependencies, and that's a rather complex implementation that we need to make with an ERP, because why it's challenging is simply how technology works. So when somebody logs in, can you imagine the website? If you imagine the website needs to check the price for each product on the fly as every page gets open, it needs to check like, what price is this? What price is that for this particular client? So there's some challenges around the data exchange between the website and the server and the ERP, and therefore, again, more complex implementation. So I'm just giving you some case studies gathered from some of the clients that we see, and explaining the dependencies again, why these business process dependencies. In some other specifics on the B2B that are really required in often cases are special quotes. So this is a feature that's very popular in the B2B on B2B businesses, because there are cases when sales representatives are going and still seeing clients on site, yet you don't want those yet you still want the clients to place the orders on your B2B side. So what can happen here? It's either the sales rep or so, or the sales assistant over the phone can create a special quote. So you might have a special thing where, you know, if you buy 100 of these, then I'm going to give you an extra few % off, and but only today and only on this call. And here these sales reps are able to prepare a quote for the client, upload it into the back end of your e-commerce, so they can finalize that order online with a special price. And that's that's something that needs to happen on the back end of the e-commerce, and that's not available for B2C, because there's no real need for it usually. Another one is the quote request. So it's basically more or less the same thing, but vice versa. It's the consumer or business itself who's put together an order. Let's assume a larger order than usual, or something extraordinary, and we can allow them to request a quote from you. So now I've added 1,000 products to cart, and I would like to see if I can get a better price than it's listed on the website, so I can request a quote, and then the sales can look at it. Sales can get notified and look at it manually, assess and submit a price for that order. So, and then they can either accept or reject, or move forward with that. So that's a very popular feature on the B2B side. Websites, because this way you can actually encourage people to interact with your sales. It's also encourages the conversation, encourages the business in general. And it's even in the B2B world, it's still important to make your clients feel special, that they're getting something a little bit extra, that they are looked after well. And this tool really allows you to do it in a digital space, in a digital world, where it's usually you do call your rep and you say, like, hey, if I buy 10 or 20, will you give me like that for free or something else? So here, with a request a quote, we can kind of do similar activity. Requisition lists as well, like very, very popular feature. Requisition lists allow the users to create a list of often bought products together. So let's imagine my business builds cabins, and I need materials for these cabins. So I can create a requisition list from my supplier with all the timber, all the nails, all the bolts, screws, roofing materials, insulation, piping, etc., etc. So I can list build a whole list that I need for one cabin exactly. So, and as soon as I sell my cabin, I can place an order at a one click with my supplier to get all the materials I need. And that's a beautiful feature for reoccurring buyers. I'm just placing kind of one narrative here for a case study, but the case study, there are hundreds and hundreds of ways how you can how your clients can use that, but having that option makes it so much easier for your B2B clients to buy from you regularly. And if we go back to that user experience statistics that I opened up at the beginning, we see that, what was it, something like 90% of the customers are happy to go elsewhere if there's an easier process. So this is how you make that process easier if you can. Order per SKU is also a really good feature, because a lot of businesses know that I need this particular product, so I don't want to go and search. I don't want to go and look for my previous order, etc. I can just simply paste the SKU number and order it. That's it. Or I can paste a list of SKU numbers and order all of these SKUs, because I know I always order these SKUs. Or yesterday I wanted those and today I want these. So that's a good feature to have. Yeah, saving things to favorites and multiple wish lists. I think we can cover these two together. So favorites work very well and wish lists work very well in the B2C world, and you might be surprised to see these here. But here, stress on multiple wish lists. It's a little bit similar to requisition lists, but multiple wish lists are typically enabled in B2B e-commerce because then you allow your business partners to kind of start building their potential projects in the back end of your e-commerce solution. So I might be thinking about the project or I'm scoping a project, so I can start adding materials, taking them off, adding something else, adding multiple, changing, and I might be working on several projects at the same time. So multiple wish lists actually enables your users to it gives tools to your users for better scoping for costs, because they already see the prices, they already know what it's going to cost. They can start putting these projects together in the back end, and likely they will further communicate that to their client, and only once they get an approval for that particular project, they can say, okay, I already have everything and I can buy it right now because I have it in my wish list. So all the products that I need for the project are already there. And order approvals or purchase orders. This is a powerful tool for to share with some of your larger clients. So when you have large companies purchasing from you, there are several people involved in that chain of purchase, and usually, well, not usually, but a lot of the times the people who are placing the order are not the ones who make the decision for the payment, or not the ones who are allowed to make a decision for the payment, or they perhaps don't have a company credit card in their pocket. So purchase orders or order approval allows to create accounts where several people from the same company can log in, place orders, yet that order, once placed, is sent for an approval to a person who's assigned to approve orders from that particular company. So that's probably either an accountant or someone from accounting or else who's saying like, yes, I approve, this order can go through, and then the company can pay for that as well. So this is just some other business specifics that are often necessary. And I would like to stress here that not all the businesses need all of the features, and barely any business probably needs all of the features, but it's important to kind of go through that customer journey as your client to understand, who are your customers, what do they do, and what are they looking for, what are they lacking, or what can make their life easier. And simply by providing these tools to them, you are enabling a better environment. Let's start looking at some points where merchants are getting stuck, and one of the most popular is not a good word here, but one of the most frequent problems that we see with our B2B clients are onboarding new clients to their existing e-commerce solution. So once you create a new e-commerce solution, it's like, how do you onboard new clients? Of course, people need to register, but registration form is one of the first and biggest tipping points that we see from our data research. And simplifying that registration form can often be the icebreaker to getting these people on board. So B2B registration form is typically quite lengthy, and it has a lot of fields because you want to know the company details, and then you get carried away. You want to know their VAT or tax number, then you want to know their address, then you want to know who's their accountant, where to send the invoice, now who's going to pay, blah, blah, blah. So bank, who do they bank with, etc. Depending on the region, depending on the country, the information may vary, but usually that form gets longer and longer and longer by day, and that's something you would really want to think about avoiding. The simpler you make it, the easier the process is going to be to onboard your customers. You need to think about how can you create the process as streamlined as possible. B2B users are also just people. They don't like wasting time on long forms. So allow them to fill in a short form, and you can request an additional information at a step later. You can request an additional information at the time they check out for the first time. Maybe perhaps it just simply needs to be a manual process. You can call them, meet and greet them. So they signed up, you can call them, or you can send them an email, or else. There are 100 different ways how that can be done. Again, it will depend on the on your internal business processes, depending what information you need to legally qualify them. Some people need to legally qualify the clients, some people don't. It depends. But it's definitely worth looking at it. So it's definitely worth looking at one of the things. Another big impediment is on onboarding existing B2B clients to a new B2B platform. This is a tough one because of those good old habits that your existing clients have, and likely that you already have a relationship. And maybe it's a relationship between a sales representative and the client, or the salesperson, or maybe even somebody in a call center and a person, or it's just a habit of them calling you up because I always know I can call and they're going to take my order, etc. But that gives you quite a bit of an overhead in terms of costs. And what I've seen talking to our B2B clients is that cost is one of the biggest drivers why businesses want to push for B2B clients to go into the B2B e-commerce. And there are a couple of tools and a couple of tips that you can take away. So here I'm just merely putting just one tool as an example. But for instance, using something like Surfly allows your sales team over the phone to co-browse together with your clients. So for instance, if you have launched a B2B store and you need to onboard an existing client into the store, so when they call into your call center, of course you need to train your call center guys to do that, but they can say like, sure, do you have a computer in front of you? Let's jump into a session. So they can fire a session and browse through that website together, so they can put that first order online together. They can sign up for the account together. They can add all the necessary items. They can the sales team can show what are the features that they need, or what's really cool or really good about the website. Why is it so convenient? And once they place that order together, they can so that person is already on board. They already created an account, or they have their account. They know how to use the website. They know how to put an order together. Perhaps your sales staff has shown how to reorder that same order later. They can show it around really. And for most clients, it will be enough with the first session. For others, it might take 2-3 times before they get a hang of it. But that's how you softly sort of get people into browsing your site, initiating that change. Of course, it takes some implementation for the software, etc. There can be some other tactics and methodologies. So your sales staff can simply create that order online and send it in an email for them to approve it or to look at it, whether it's right, and they can approve it from the email there. There are some risks that some people might not know how to do it, but still probably worth trying. But this solution like this with Surfly just literally allows to softly onboard them into the e-commerce space. But yeah, this is really one of the toughest issues that we've seen with a lot of our B2B clients, and this method has worked really well in the past. The third impediment that we see where merchants get stuck is a lot of the times getting simply getting all of the product catalog online, and there's more than one client that we've seen that with. and that's usually dependent for a dependency for the clients who have multiple suppliers. So oftentimes, even if you have all of the products in your ERP system and you can sync all the product SKUs and descriptions and names, but you're still missing all of the enrichment data. And since the products are coming from several suppliers, there might be various sources where that product enrichment is coming from, if it's coming at all. So here, really have to think about some PIM system or product information management system that can really help here, because in the PIM we can feed JSONs from API connections. We can feed in Excel sheets. If absolutely necessary, we can look into feeding PDFs and other documents. And what we need to do, we need to take all of that information, we need to normalize it, and then we need to consolidate it and push it into the e-commerce. Anything that's missing, of course, will need to be manually populated, but it's definitely, if the company is dedicated for moving into the e-commerce direction, it's something that really needs to be done for sure. We have a question from Yesha. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But, how exactly is co-browsing different from something like remote access? So it's not very different in a way. It's a very similar concept with a remote access. The only difference is that you're not taking over the whole computer. You can't go into their settings. You can't go into their into their private data, etc. You can only help them sort of co-browsing, so you're both doing it together. It's not like you just simply doing it for them, you're doing it together. And you're not able to access their private data, their computer, exactly. You're only able to access that website. So you're both only on that website window, only that frame alone, and that alone. So that's probably the biggest difference. The concept is very similar with co-browsing. And what is also there, you can give access to all of your sales stuff. If you have 20 phone salespeople and all of them need to be able to access your clients' computers, and remember, those are businesses. They might be sensitive to what data you're going to be accessing and who are those people on the other end, although they're sales systems, but still. So it's just taking those barriers off and allowing to do that. And there's also some implementation that happens on the e-commerce side. So that connection happens only within your website framework itself, and not on the computer as such. Yeah, some tips on how to make it easy, or as easy as it possibly can be. So I think we did go through quite a lot of challenges that B2B merchants have. And on various stages, there will be various tools. There is no magic pill that heals all wounds. There's going to be kind of a unique scenario for every unique business in most cases. But if we generalize, I would throw a few suggestions here. First of all, choosing a platform that can do as much out of the box features as possible. We need to think about what does my business need, what the customer journey is going to be, what are going to be either the tools or the tool sets that I'm going to have to use, and which platform can deliver most of that out of the box. That would be my first question. Secondly, it's about picking the platforms who can talk to one another. So like we already established, most of business to business will have existing pieces of software that you already use. So you might be with something like Microsoft, something like Microsoft Dynamics, which is widely popular and can integrate with pretty much any platform. But then you might be on something very specific ERP, and you need to have you need to look at whether it has a connector or whether your developer can make that connection from scratch, which is often times the case, because these ERP systems are usually quite customized, and so on. So this is another good kind of aspect. And thirdly, I would really strongly suggest to look at the platform that allows customizations. And why customizations are important for exactly that reason is no B2B business is alike. Every single business is dependent on how you do things. It's these are live beings that have evolved over the years, and there are probably some really good decisions that have been made in the past, and there are likely some not that good decisions that have been made in the past, or there's perhaps some legacy systems that are still coming along, and maybe perhaps it's simply being used because they still work, but some legacy technology. But so you need to have a platform that allows for customizations. Why am I stressing that? Because we've seen many times where people have gone for the easiest solution. So if you look only at the first point here, a platform that has as many out-of-the-box features as possible that fits you, always have to kind of think 1 or 2 steps ahead. So if you go for a platform like Shopify, for instance, which is a beautiful platform, and I really love it to bits for many reasons, and I worked with that in my previous career. But when it comes to customizations, it's just not very flexible, and therefore for B2B, it's oftentimes also a very important point. Yeah, we have a question from Jorg. What recommendations do we have for a B2B company who's a manufacturer to drive traffic and sales growth via B2C centered marketplaces like Amazon, for instance? Technical info is not something easy to upload and maintain with Amazon. And yes, you're absolutely right. So Amazon has a lot of limitations. So yeah, a lot of limitations, and you can really work with what they have. So a B2B company who's a manufacturer wants to drive traffic sales growth with the B2C centered marketplaces. So there are I would have a ton of questions. So for instance, if you have all of your products in your e-commerce store already, or perhaps you're using a PIM platform or product information management platform, or perhaps some other third party or an ERP, then first of all, you can create connections. So for instance, if you use Adobe eCommerce or Magento, you can connect to Amazon, and you can feed products into Amazon and other marketplaces via product feeds. So you can use extensions like Stento or else that allow you to feed your products to other platforms. So therefore, you can use your e-commerce as a source and push products further onto other platforms. Then there are some third-party implementations that allow you to do marketplace management in general, and then that third-party platform sort of sits in a central center, feeding products into your Adobe and other marketplaces. So you can feed it to eBay, you can feed it to Amazon, you can feed it to in Germany. There's a platform called Otto, and some other marketplaces as well. So so you can use tools and product feeds, so you don't have to do that manually for every product. So you don't have to manage the inventory twice. If you are using PIM or product information management system, that we had somewhere here, then in this product information management system, you can also add these data sets. What is going to be assigned for e-commerce store? So you're probably going to have the let's assume short description field, long description field, attribute sets, or some bullet points, etc. So you build your information data set as you need it. But then you can have a complete separate stream, which is a data set for Amazon. So therefore, you're feeding products with a data set that's designed for Amazon. So you need to go by Amazon's rules and therefore feed only information that needs to be there. You might have another field for another marketplace and another field for another marketplace, all for the same SKU number in the same PIM platform. So that's where PIM comes in really handy when you are selling in multiple channels to keep your product information centralized. That's a really good tool. And really good tool to use there. For another question, can we elaborate a little bit on Shopify not being customizable? Yesha had an e-commerce store, B2C, using it and felt they had some really cool features, customized backend aspects specifically. So what is with the Shopify and not being that customizable is that Shopify is a cloud-based platform. So therefore you are everybody is very limited to what that cloud-based platform does. Yes, you have a lot of applications that you can download and install with a click of a button, and that's very easy, and it's super easy, and that's one of the reasons I absolutely loved it for. As a user, as a merchant, as a user, it's very user-friendly because you can kind of drag and drop things, you can click and play, etc. But as soon as you need to do something customizable, what this cloud-based platform is not designed to do. So for instance, if you want to modify your checkout, yes, there is some modifications that you can do if you're on Shopify Plus account, but also very limited. But you can't really modify checkout. You can't really go and add upsell products in a checkout the way you want them to be there, dependent on what's inside of the cart, etc. It simply doesn't allow you to do that. You want to display a payment method in a particular way. So for instance, let's assume you want to prioritize pay by card, and we want our pay later elsewhere smaller, deprioritized. You cannot do that, and that's just one aspect as a checkout. So Shopify is a great platform for what it does out of the box and what it does with applications. But as soon as you start customizing it, oftentimes you need to build third-party middle layers to create the functionality and feed it back into Shopify. But again, you can only feed it back into Shopify what Shopify accepts allows you to feed back into it. And that can become an issue. Not saying it does. We have some really good clients on Shopify that we work with, but if we put this in a B2B perspective, then B2B often tends to require customizations in a lot of these processes. In the integration with what data sets and attributes you get from your ERP. So you might have particular attributes that Shopify is not designed to display or do something with them. It's getting better at it. I think the last year has been quite a game changer in Shopify world, but if we talk kind of for the B2B level, there's still some way to go. But they are developing in that direction. So yeah, maybe one day it will get there. Yeah, what can you do? What help can you get? Sort of what do you need to do? And this is my tiny sales pitch, but not even so. I think it's a really good call here. Customer experience audits for existing B2B stores, that's an excellent step to start with. Like I said, you look through you look through the eyes of your client, or so you look through the eyes of your customer. You go through the process and you analyze and understand what needs to be done here and what needs to happen here. Of course, here at Scandi, we have a whole user experience team who are highly qualified to do these customer experience audits, and I would highly suggest you looking into something like that to optimize that process, to ensure that your clients are getting what they really need, what they're really looking for, that their life is easy. We all love things when they are easy. Nobody wants things hard. They tend to get hard sometimes, but we really want them to be easy. Another path that can be walked is the whole discovery and planning process. This is for two particular cases. Either you have some technical requirements, issues, or needs that need to be fulfilled that your current solution is not fulfilling. So it's either some improvements, technology migration, changes, etc., sort of third-party implementations, or if you don't have that B2B solution at all and you need to start from scratch. So then the discovery and the planning process can be real good. I'm not sure if our colleagues are sending this presentation through there. I've added links here under each of these, so you can kind of check out the how that happens. But yeah, thirdly and lastly, you can always just simply book a call with me or my team. Always happy to jump on a call to discuss some challenge that you have, and see if we can help each other. That's how we do things. We see if we can help each other, and if it works both ways, then excellent. Then we probably can do business together. Yeah, that's it from me for today. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming together. My name is Maris. I'm a business developer at scandiweb. You can email me at maris.skujins@scandiweb.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I really hope this was interesting, and I can see it definitely has been interesting, at least for some of you. I appreciate you all coming here. Let's see, we had some perfect. Yeah, so yeah, there's a thank you for the questions as well. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, future questions, feel free to reach out. Really, drop me an email, ping me on LinkedIn, or just go on the scandiweb website and book a session. We will be happy to talk. Thank you very much.